Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the 41st episode of Half Century of Collecting Sports Cards series of my favorite 400 cards. Last week we started with number 400, went down to 393. That's a card right there. Unfortunately, in that time, my number 400, Frank Howard, we lost, but hopefully he got to watch from above as an original Texas Ranger got to watch his Texas Rangers win their first World Series title ever last night over the Arizona Diamondbacks. But with that, let's go ahead and get going to card number 392. And this is a card that is the first Topps card ever of Stan Musial. Finally, after all those years, we had some Bowman cards and a lot of years of not even having a card in a mainstream issue anyway. But finally came to agreement, as in 58, the St. Louis Cardinals were asking for donations, and Topps said, we'll give one if Stan Musial agrees to finally become or come on a Topps card, and he did. And he came in the late series card here with the All-Star card, and then he had cards with him a few years after until he retired. Here he's 37 years old already. This is probably one of the top 10 all-time greats. 7-time batting champ who also hit 475 home runs. Stan Musial. There he is. Thought that was kind of a cool pose. Nice back there of that 58 All-Star card. Number 391. A little bit of a surprise pick, but I've got a 69 Cleon Jones. He picked just partly for the pose, kind of a neat Mets colors in that picture, but he's in that outfield ready pose. And the importance of this card is 1969, Cleon Jones hit 340. He was 7th in MVP voting, and he took a team that never even finished 500 in their previous years and helped lead them to a World Series title, even though a lot of the leaders were pitchers, but he was the main hitter on that team. And then the other thing, I just thought, 69 cards in general, backs of their cards, and his in particular is just really cool. Love the cartoon showing that he was a great college football player as well, scoring 26 touchdowns in 9 games for Alabama A&M. All right, next card is number 390 on my list, a 1972, and these kind of go in conjunction. A 1972 regular and in action, Willie Mays. So this is Mays at age 40, but I think even at age 40, just kind of a classic Mays pose with a nice smile, and it still shows, in that in action card at age 40, as a guy ran the bases without his helmet, and still could slide there, sliding into third, bringing up a nice cloud of dust on the slide. So back of the card in 72, showing he's over 2,000 career runs scored already, 646 home runs in his career, ended up with 660. It's the back of the All-Star card. Or not All-Star, but in action card. Next on my list is a 1969 Topps Tall Boy basketball card of Dave Bing. When I first got those, I told it in my last video, but those 72 basketball cards, the first cards I really ever got that were cards at the time, and we got them from redeeming things in cereal boxes. But Dave Bing 72 card I just love, so I had to get his first card, and this is it. This is an era when basketball, we had go in 48, there were Bowman cards, 57 Topps, 61 Fleer, and then not again until these 69 Topps. So a lot of guys, anybody who was started between 61 and 69, their first cards would be in this year, and Dave Bing was one of those guys. This card, just a lot of orange in there, which is the basketball color, not only on the front, but the back as well, and kind of shows quality player that he was. That second year there, he averaged 27.1 a game. He was the league leader in scoring, well over 20 points a game. When they came out after 50 years of pro basketball, the top 50 all-time players. Dave Bing was on the list. He's also on the list that came out of the top 75 players after 75 years. So one of the great all-time shooters and slashers to the hoop. He also was the mayor of Detroit for a few years after his retirement. Dave Bing. Okay, next on the list, we've got a T206 card, and this is Huey Jennings. Here with Detroit, he's 40 years old by this. This is 1909 on the T206 card. Jennings had really just about 5 or 6 good years, and they were in the 90s, and we're talking about the 1890s. He had one year, 1896, where he hit 401, and in that season was hit by pitch 51 times, which is still a record. Really the modern day record is held. It happened in this year's 71 by Ron Hunt, got hit 50 times. But Jennings had 51. And then lifetime, Jennings also has the most hit by pitches, 287. There's a current guy who got hit 285 times, Craig Biggio, that holds what they call the modern record. But Jennings in, not a ton of at-bats, which he's kind of a marginal how do you get in the Hall of Fame. He's got a 312 career average, but only like 1,600 career hits. He didn't really play that long. He's kind of one of those that maybe got in because he was a good manager as well afterwards. This year, 1909, he was a player manager and was one of the years that he managed the Tigers to the pennant, and it was actually the 3rd year in a row got his team to the pennant. So he's kind of one of those guys like Joe Torre, Gil Hodges. I think Dusty Baker's going to be one of those that's probably going to get into the Hall of Fame. I think the main reason Jennings got into the Hall of Fame was he was, a decent player, but then a good manager on top of it. So you put the two together, and he ended up in the Hall. Okay, next on the list is just a card that I think is a cool card. 54 Bowman, Phil Rizzuto. Love the color in that pose. Just like the pose with the extra bats sitting there on deck, 3 bats there. One of the great defensive shortstops of all time. Lots of World Series there with the 40s and 50s Yankees. He was an okay offensive player, and one year, 1950, he did kind of break out offensively, had 200 hits and was like a 320-something hitter, and he won the league MVP that year. You can see the back of his card. This is kind of as Rizzuto's winding down a little in his career, but I just like the color and pop of that card. And then my last guy, another probably unlikely for most of you guys, but this is Nate Wright, who was one of my favorite football players growing up as a kid. I loved playing defensive back and cornerback and covering guys when, we play in the schoolyard, and Nate Wright was the best cornerback the Vikings my team had. And to show you that Nate Wright, he wasn't just a good Viking cornerback, but he was good league-wide. He was the all-pro here, as you can see, with Emmett Thomas from the AFC, Nate Wright from the NFC. And one of the other reasons I got to really like Nate Wright is because I think I documented this in one of my real early videos about sending letters to players when I was a kid. It's kind of how Lou Brock and Bob Gibson became 2 of my favorite players, was that they sent me back autographed pictures, and that was something Nate Wright did. And when you get something like that as a 10, 11-year-old, they're always going to be up there on your favorite players list. So that's it for today. Those are the guys that made my list. And we will see you again, hopefully within a week or less. Take care.